Yeah, right.
Okay. Begin pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of the agenda. Are there any subtractions or additions to the agenda that go with pair? No, sir. Anybody else?
Motion we approve.
Second.
Motion been made, second to approve. All in favor? Item 3 is a public forum. This is an opportunity for people to bring matters to the Board of Selectmen's attention that is not already on the agenda. Before we begin, I talked to some folks individually after last meeting about perhaps establishing a new procedure whereby folks would wait for the chair to identify, recognize you first by raising your hand, and then if you would identify yourself, because I happened to look at one of our meetings, and if somebody's speaking from the audience, all I see is the back of your head, and if somebody doesn't know who you are, you have no idea who's speaking. And it might be important for people to know who's making a comment or who's bringing an issue forward. So if you could just, as I said, identify yourself so we'll have it, if somebody's interested in watching it on the website or speaking. With that said, does anybody have anything that's not on the agenda they want to bring to the attention of the board? Shoot, we don't get to use the new procedure.
I think you'll have a chance.
All right. Okay, minutes of June 24th, 2013. Okay, Phil, you got a correction you wanted to bring to the attention?
Yeah, C, and the second line is not a steel body. I thought it was aluminum, but I guess it's stainless steel.
Yes.
So it should say stainless steel body?
Yeah. Under 6C. Yeah.
It says there, it says stainless steel.
You can change it to replace the body with a stainless steel body.
Did I make
Oh,
The next sentence is
next sentence.
Oh.
This steel body could be
Okay, yeah, so it's stainless steel.
Anyone else have any other corrections to be made?
motion we approve as corrected.
I'll second that.
Motion been made, seconded to approve the minutes as corrected. All in favor? So approved. Committee and board reports.
Planning board meets on the 11th, that's this Thursday, 7 p.m. in the library. Selectman DuBois, do you have an update for this?
Nope.
Our SU 21 Facilities Committee meets on the 11th as well, and that should say 9:15 a.m., not 9:30, at KES in room A102. I will update you on what happens in that meeting as long as the chamber meeting early enough.
Could I have one thing? When I was looking at the sketch as I was filing it, I guess one question that I would have for the facilities committee is the library is to the front and the office is to the back. Are they going to be using it as a back entrance for parents? Because of all these security issues, you definitely want to have your main entrance near the office so that the parents are walking in and have to sign in.
The parent drop-off is going to be in the back of the school. I believe,
So
from
there
what I
will be
was
a
told,
front
this will
entrance?
just be for the buses here,
Oh,
and then there'll be an entrance here, and this is all vestibuled off, so it's a secure area, and the parents will drop off around the backside.
So if you're a visitor, you would have to come in from the back?
From the back, yeah.
Okay, because I was concerned because the office was in the back.
Yep.
All right.
That's where the parking is also.
Yeah, the kids are going through the front when they get off the bus.
Okay, no other committee or board reports from anyone? Okay. Moving on to new business. First item is A is Chesapeake Group at EDC presentation of the SWOT, which stands for Strengths, Weaknesses, Opportunities, and Threats Analysis of the Board of Selectmen. I believe we have Mr.
How's it going?
Okay.
My name's I'm Ira Camp. I'm the chair of the EDC. I was just gonna basically introduce Howard, and he's gonna give you the main presentation. At this point, what we're here, obviously, we're asked to just come here and kind of update you on where we are with the study. It's not done. Just to make sure you understand that this isn't the final verdict. This is just a portion of what Howard's been working on. As you said, it is the strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and all that good stuff. And it's a lot of the data that we put together through the town and us and the people that he's met with and the survey and so forth. And he's going to give you a condensed version of the approximately 2-hour-long presentation he gave to us last week or a week and a half ago. So without further ado, Mr. Hunt.
Thank you. I really apologize that the presentation is behind you.
Yeah, just turn around, it's okay.
So,
You'll be able to hear me,
as long
so.
as you can hear Howard. You want me to click them for you, Howard, or do you
Yes.
want?
Why not?
I'm gonna let the smart board get smart.
While he's getting that started, let me just say that, first of all, I personally like to thank the committee who's worked very hard along with us on this effort so far. We have completed some preliminary work. So on this strength, weaknesses, opportunities, I hate the term for that, so I don't use it. To me, it's a very negative kind of term. But I call it just the issues, okay, that are out there. I want to go through that a little bit and let you know that other things are progressing quite quickly. I think there's another EDC meeting tomorrow, I'm gathering, and they'll be reviewing some additional information. There's some parts that have been put into writing, as I say, as it comes out of my head, right onto the paper, so it hasn't been proofread, it hasn't been anything like that. That's the way we do it, typically a very first draft. Go to the next slide. I want to talk first about some of the perceptions that are out there. Some of them may be based upon fact. Some of them are not necessarily based upon fact. It really doesn't matter. If people perceive them to be true, they are true, whether or not they're founded on anything in particular. Those issues and weaknesses, number one, we have very limited resources here in this community. It's a very small community. We have limited staff, as you know, from a public sector standpoint. And in fact, just pure the number of people in the community are very small in terms of actual numbers. And we have limited fiscal capacity, irrespective of whether or not we've chosen to use bonds, not bonds, it really doesn't matter. Our tax revenue size is not that large, so we have real constraints there from a resource standpoint. From a scale, the population, you know what it is, it's very small. We have a relatively small land area. It's not densely populated, it's very rural in character at this point in time. And we have a lack of public services in certain places. You know the issues with natural gas, I think that I'm sure have come to your attention over the years, sewer and water issues that exist out there. We did a lot of work here in talking to people. Some of you know that, some of you were involved in individual interviews, some of you were involved in various groups that got together. We also did a survey of residents of the area and got it somewhere between a 20 and 25% sample of all the households in the area participated in that survey, which is a huge sample by any kind of statistical analysis that you can do. And one of the things is a general conclusion that there's little sense of community of what Arundel is, who it is, where it is even, in a lot of ways. Visually, you really can't tell. And there's no activity area. There's no place that people could say, that's symbolic of Arundel. And there's a lot of people out there that are interested in something like that. From a water standpoint, we have an aquifer that has salt that comes into it on a regular basis. creates some difficulties in cost use of that. We don't have access to the ocean in Arundel. I think 150 years ago or whatever, in the infinite wisdom of the people who were here at that time, they gave up that access, direct access. Cost of taxes and utility rates, again, perceptions. There are people in the community who perceive, and business people perceive, that we have relatively high taxes and relatively high utility rates. Maine, in and of itself at this point in time, its primary industry is tourism. We're really not participating in that industry to any significant extent. People feel that this community is dominated by the communities around it. They have better known, often they're just, in fact, just simply larger in terms of scale. Our residents, all the dollars essentially are spent outside of the community. Very little shopping, very little entertainment activity, etc. is spent inside of Arundel. That doesn't mean it's not spent in the region, and people recognize there's a region out there, but they export their dollars from the community, which means that there's tax revenues associated with that we don't get. There's employment activity and other things like that. And our role in the primary industry, which is that tourism, is negligible at this point in time. We have some internal factors that are important. The perception that the land that is left for development, that the costs are higher on it, that it's more difficult to develop in a lot of ways. Conditions on Route 1, people say if you go drive through there at night, you could go off the edge of the road and nobody realizes that there's insufficient lighting and things like that. The business, in people's minds, if you say business, they don't think of Arundel manufacturing. They don't think of any of the other things that are out there. They think of, no, we don't want to see suburban retail strip development along our major corridors here in Arundel. That is the one thing and the only thing they think of when they think of business. We have internally some issues that we have to deal with, and that's inconsistent information and processes. Some businesses get treated like this and are fine, and other businesses get treated in a very different way. We're not sure why or what. When people go out to talk to business people, go out to talk to development interests, it often changes as they go through the process, through the staff, through the regulatory process, and on a month-to-month basis it can change, and that creates cost factors to that development. There are others who say we have inflexible regulations. We're in the process of redoing our zoning ordinance and things like that here, along with our comprehensive plan. All that can be modified, or at least the perceptions of that can be modified. Lastly, with respect to issues that are external factors that we have very little control over, which have an impact on us and an impact on our opportunities. For a long time, Maine has said to people, come up here, visit us, drop some money, spend a little bit of time, and go home. We don't want you to stay here. Okay, we don't want you to live here, which means you're not opening a business here. Go home, okay? Now that has changed a little bit in the last year or two, but this has been for years and years and years, and it almost becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. As you know, the state has a declining population, has a rapidly aging population. Many of the industries that were formerly here are no longer viable here at this point in time. There are some larger demographic issues. If you look and compare Maine and you compare southern Maine to the United States, you'll find that the demographics are very different today here in Maine than what they are elsewhere, and particularly in the youth end of the spectrum. Conditions at Biddeford Airport, I'm not going to dwell on these. I'll talk about it a little bit more during the opportunity phase. It is highly improbable that anyone will ever build another airport in the United States. It's just way too difficult to do, and the loss of any one is a problem. What we have is a situation right now in Biddeford where there is money available to make just basic maintenance improvements, which would be sufficient to create more activity at that airport. We have land adjacent to that airport that could be used for other purposes. The bottom line is that that's not happening at this point in time and doesn't seem to be in the immediate offing. Again, our national population is very different than what the country is composed of at this moment. turning to the positive, and there's many more positive things, okay? And I always like to get the negative stuff out of the way so that we can move on to the things that are important and that we have going for us. We're located on the East Coast, near millions and millions of people with quality access to those people. We are increasingly having an economic and function with the Boston metropolitan area, and the linkages there are increasingly strong. There are some in the community who would say, well, that's not a good thing. Okay, but the fact of the matter is it is a major metropolitan area with lots of activity going on, and we are very strongly linked to that at this point in time. We're the only part of the state that's really growing by any significant amount, and that's in southern Maine. That's also important. We have our large population centers in southern Maine that surround us. The people in your community recognize that they are part of a larger region, that they're not isolated from Kittabunk, Kittabunkport, Saco, Biddeford, it doesn't matter, any of these communities around us, that we're all kind of dependent upon each other to live in the future as we have been in the present and in the past. We are near internationally known tourist attractions. We have vast natural resources, including water. We don't think about that, but you know, the river is one of our borders. Vegetation, animal, birds, etc. We'll get into some of the activities that can be used for. The transportation network. We have we're in close proximity to 3 international airports, as you know, okay? We've got one in Portland, we've got one in Boston, and we've got one over in New Hampshire. We have irreplaceable regional airports also that have a viable function, some of which are functioning quite well at this point in time. There's a picture in the corner of Sanford Airport there. We are great if somebody needed to move goods and services through the area, if somebody needed to get in and out of the area, if there was a problem along I-95, they can take US 1 or vice versa. So we've got 2 primary access routes through us that go to these millions and millions of people along the East Coast. We're served by rail and we have easy access to a port. So we've got the full range of the transportation network here. The rural character and quality of life is the thing that really does differentiate us in most ways from our surrounding areas. The agricultural history and continuance is critical. Agriculture, as you know, is arguably the oldest industry in the United States. Some would say fishing, maybe. Okay, but the combination, one of the two is the oldest industry in the United States. It is the one that this country is still dominant in, and we happen to have a new player that has come into our arena that has dynamic positioning in a market and has plans to create a lot of things that can bring a lot of people into this community and a lot of dollars along with that. We have a welcoming and warm community. There are people who have lived here for a long, long time who say, well, I don't know all my neighbors anymore. Well, that may be true, but you also hear the stories of somebody has something wrong with their vehicle or their snow needs to be removed, and somebody just comes in and does it, and they just say thank you, etc. It's very welcoming and warm, given the society that we live in today. The schools, we won't dwell on an issue that occurred before, but the fact of the matter is that there have been visible, very strong signs of improvement in a very short period of time that have brought our schools up to snuff and are doing quite well at this moment in time, so we have a reasonable school system. Studies have shown that there's 2 things that people look for in location of business activity. One of them is quality of life, however they deem that to be quality of life, as factor number 1. Second factor on where they live and where they operate businesses is the schools that are in the area. We have a full range of business activity. While we don't have a lot of it, again, we're a small community, we have manufacturing, we have a variety of things. If some of you are not familiar with it, you probably are, but go visit a Rundle machine. You know, it's incredibly clean. Go look at what Kate's is doing. You know, it's a wonderful activity, very modern, and in the case of a Rundle machine, if you go out there and ask your residents, they don't even know it's there. And so it isn't hurt. The fact that we have manufacturing with lots of employment going on in no way, shape, or form is negatively impacting this community. It's helping this community by the tax base and by the jobs that it's creating. Our population, it's educated and aging. There was an article, I guess now about 3 weeks ago in the Wall Street Journal, saying how it appears that the younger population is risk averse. They're not starting businesses. They're not doing entrepreneurial activity. We have an educated, aging population. There's the possibility of using them from a mentoring purposes. There's a possibility of using them from an investment standpoint. And our population is relatively affluent compared to the communities around us. We have a higher average income than the communities around us, and that's also important to us and represents a good strength and opportunity down the line. We're within that growing region in Maine, as I said, which we're very fortunate to have that. We have existing and underutilized assets, and there's one thing that I can stress to you, and some of that discussion was going on before this meeting started tonight. Some of the people here up front of this table. We've got to use our resources effectively and efficiently. We do not have enough of them from a public sector standpoint that we can disperse them all over the place and think that we're going to gain much benefit from it. We have to really be careful in how we use them and make sure that we're trying to leverage every time we do something. We have sufficient land for expansion. We have affordability. Our taxes are lower than some of the other communities, etc., in spite of some of the perceptions that I mentioned earlier. We have the Eastern Trail, which is not utilized effectively or efficiently at this point in time. We have the Biddeford Airport, which is in very poor condition at this point in time and highly underutilized, and there's a great deal more potential for it. And we have natural resources. The natural resources can serve a purpose over and beyond just attracting people here to come and look at them and walk through them. Some of the general opportunities, the direction that we're going in, I'm not going to go into a great deal of detail, but the goal is to mitigate the negatives, whether the perceptions, whether they're based on fact or not, and enhance the use of the assets in a sustainable way that preserves your rural character. Agriculture and tourism linkage, we want to link into that primary industry that's in the area so that it gets benefit from us and we get benefit from it, so that it becomes a synergistic sharing thing. The agriculture is the key to that. Kate's has certainly provided some momentum to move in that direction with some of the plans that they have well over and beyond producing butter. Transportation. The Route 1, we can make improvements to there, and Biddeford Airport is another tremendous opportunity. We have land adjacent to it, which access to it doesn't even require major new infrastructure of any kind whatsoever, and doesn't change the rural character if in fact it was developed for manufacturing and other job creation activity near that airport, and it's very possible to do that. We've estimated the amount of space that you could generate doing that kind of thing. We've estimated the amount of retail and traditional office space also over the next 10 years that you could build. The R&D, you have a variety of avenues that you can go in, particularly linked to your natural resources and your agriculture. Kate's is one of those areas, and they're going to be moving in the R&D arena. They're bringing in embryos from Europe, okay, to develop cows that are not here today in this country. So the R&D opportunities are out there. Manufacturing is changing. If you look at these pictures along the side, the first two, that is made by that first, whatever you want to call it, I guess somebody calls it a blouse, was made by a machine, 3D printing. It doesn't take large spaces to do this. It doesn't necessarily take a lot of startup capital to make it happen. We have the resources within this community to foster that kind of activity. It needs to have a good transportation network. It needs to be near major areas. One day, in the not too distant future, you're not going to go into a store and buy a shirt, okay, or a blouse if you're a woman, okay? It's going to be something that is going to be made by a piece of cloth for you, particularly that will fit your size. There won't be, for men's sizes, 16, 16 and a half, 15, 14 necks anymore. It'll be made to fit you on demand, overnight, shipped very close to you. The primary cost will be that transportation factor. That's why we have a good location. The community character, our development in the future will be driven by maintaining that community character that people love so much in this area. It separates us. It makes us different than the Biddeford's and the Sackos. It makes us different than the Kittibunkports and the Kittibunks. So we have a very unique opportunity there too, and feeding with the agritourism and some other activity, perhaps also oriented towards arts and culture, to build that in as another opportunity. That's kind of the gist of where we are. I think I'm going to turn it over to somebody at this point in time. Everybody take questions?
Well, do you want to do a question first?
Yes.
No, I don't have a question. I want to see if anybody else does. Without giving number to the committee. Anybody from the board? Howard, you did say something early on. I was just interested in knowing. You got information that some of our business folks feel that they're being treated inequitably, that there's...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And did they explain to you in exactly what way they thought that?
Yes. Certain businesses are treated one way and certain or other, depending upon not the law, okay, not what's in your regulations, but depending upon whether somebody thinks that would be a great business for, both would be allowed, but whether if someone or some people think it's a great business for Arundel and others think, well, maybe it's not such a good business. Well, your regulations are your regulations, and if both are allowed, as a matter of right in a district, they shouldn't be treated one differently than the other. Or you change your regulations.
Sure enough, but is that, are you getting that from them that relative to staff, our planning board, or other boards in the town? Is that... All right, that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All that is correctable. Let me just put it that way.
That's why I asked the question.
Our next, one of the things we're working on right now is coming up with an implementation program so that you can capitalize on it. Again, always being conscious of the fact that you have very limited resources to use to do that. And you need to use it more effectively sometimes than you
Okay. Anybody else? Okay.
My name is Linda Zook. I am the vice chair of the Arundel EDC. And unlike my colleague here, I think I got a little bit more to say. I apologize for that if I ramble on. I want to thank Howard for his presentation and for the hard work that he's put into this project to this point, and for our continued efforts, and looking forward to the continued relationship. Members of the Board of Selectmen, I was asked to give a conclusion about Howard's SWOT analysis and presentation, but as Ira said, conclusion is not really the correct word. This is just the beginning. It's the beginning for all of us, a lot of hard work, and a lot of exciting changes that are going to take place in this town. When I was asked to be a member of the EDC, I was pretty enthusiastic and excited. I'm really proud to be a part of this project, and I'm proud to work with such a great group of people that are intelligent, dedicated, and passionate, and I want to thank them all for everything that they're doing. Being a businesswoman and not a politician, I'm going to put this in my terms. Arundel is a business, and the taxpayers are the stockholders. They're the owners. The owners have elected board of directors, which is the selectmen, to make important decisions for the company. One being hiring a CEO, which that would be our town manager, Todd, right? And he needs managers to help implement tasks. The stockholders requested that we hire a consultant firm that would sort out, consultant firm to determine what sort of economic development could be executed in Arundel to ease our residential tax burden while maintaining the beautiful rural character that our residents love. To help with this particular task, the CEO has hired the EDC. These managers know you just can't tell the employees what to do because this company is employee-owned. You need these employees to believe in this vision in order to implement this plan that the paid consultant will complete. Like any business, there is only one way to make this work, and it starts from the top down. The stockholders, the board of directors, the managers, the employees need to believe in this plan. We all need to be dedicated to executing the opportunities that Howard has established exist for us, and see each and every one of them through to the end. You need to believe in this 100%, and you need to share that belief with your neighbors, your family, your friends, your co-workers, your employees. Me and the EDC we could have 100% confidence in this plan, but we're just managers. I know from experience that you can hire the best, most expensive consultants, but if the owners and the directors do not believe in this, then it'll never be successful. Thank you.
Linda? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Joan Hull, and I'd just like to know if there was anything in the presentation that surprised the select folks, selectmen, people?
Surprises?
Yeah, was there anything in there that was new or didn't feel right to you? I mean, I'm still fairly new to the community, but I'd love to hear what you thought of it. If it made sense to you or not.
I did.
My only comment was being on a planning board for 9 years and trying to force the issue of if it's allowed, it's allowed, doesn't matter what business it is. That kind of surprised me, and I'm not sure if, how those comments, again, it could be a perception by one or two individuals, but, that kind of surprised me, because I know that on the planning board, I pushed hard to make sure that, we don't treat the businesses different, the regulations are the regulations and you follow them. So, but that kind of surprised me a little bit.
Anybody else? No?
Well, what surprised me was the proximity to the Biddeford Airport. I know that our property line is there somewhere, but I've never actually looked at a map. And as Howard pointed out, that proximity could very well turn into a very big plus for us. I never gave it a thought. So, thank you. I think that is a great opportunity. But my question is, what's next? Where do we go now?
We're working on it.
What's up?
Let me respond first to the earlier question. We would not have put anything in there if we hadn't heard from numerous people that there was an issue. It wasn't just one or two. With respect to your comment, I do believe it's all correctable. Okay, so don't get me wrong, and it doesn't have anything necessarily to do with the planning board. It's a process that seems to have at times not worked as effectively as what it should. The Biddeford Airport situation is, we have a marvelous opportunity. We have a lot of acreage there, and we need to make sure that it gets used for the proper kind of activity in the future. And we need to make sure that the airport itself begins to be maintained with dollars that are available from the federal government, which are being sat on at this point in time. And we have to figure out politically how to accomplish that if Biddeford itself isn't interested in doing that. So one of the key things here, just like with your school system, regionalization sometimes can be of significant benefit to you because you're small and can leverage other communities, other population bases, other things to make something happen that otherwise wouldn't. Where we're going from here is we're working on the strategy of how you would implement this. Again, being sure that we have limited resources and making it realistic, okay, and not something that's pie in the sky that you can't accomplish because you don't have those resources. And two, we've begun working on what is the second piece in here, and that is the marketing. And our process for that is that the EDC will be reviewing, I think there's 108, something like that, taglines, positioning lines that describe Arundel in some way, shape, or form. They will be, each one of them individually, not knowing what the other one's going to do, okay, is going to select the top 20 that they like. That then will come back to us, and we'll select which comes out of that, the top 10 or 20. And then we're gonna get the public involved. Again, we're gonna do another online survey, and we're gonna get them to respond to what do they like, are there changes they'd like to see to some of these, so that we have community consensus when we're finished that process. So we'll have an implementation program, we'll have a marketing pieces that can promote us to the outside world in the way we want to be promoted.
Is this implementation program speak to the issue of how we collaborate relative to the Biddeford Airport?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, oh yes.
I'm interested to see that.
You've been around long enough to know what's going on.
Yeah. Yes.
Look forward.
I have a couple of questions, or one comment and one question. You mentioned Biddeford Airport. A while back, someone had approached the planner, I believe, about the railroad. You know, just like the bakery had needed an access to the railroad as well as the turnpike. Has that been considered as any viable business site with a railroad in proximity to that area on Route 1 with the railroad?
The only thing I can say to you is we have substantial land immediately around there that access to from a variety of means does not have major infrastructure costs associated with it.
Okay. my other, this is more of a comment than anything, but hearing all of this, I'm very impressed with the work you've done so far. And I know that it's been a year already that we voted on the funding for this study. And wondering if this information could be compiled into a newsletter or something that would go out so people know that something is going on, because I know you're working like this, but there's a lot of people out there who have no clue that this is going on, and that I'm wondering if maybe even just the preliminary information is distributed in a newsletter so that people are aware that, okay, it's been a year since we voted on this at town meeting. This is some of the information we've gotten back from the surveys. This is happening, and we're going to continue working on some other things, and we will be presenting it to the public later. But just kind of because I'm surprised at all the information that you've got compiled, and I think it's very informative, and I'm wondering,
This,
get it out there.
if I may, sure. This information is going to take up the majority of the next few newsletters. Now, as we move forward, that's one way that we have here in town of communicating with the people in town. I don't know how many of them read it, but we mail it to everybody, so it'll be a big part of what we're doing as we come out with the next few Arrow issues.
Yeah, 'cause I think that's been one of our, stepping stones in the past, is the fact that we kind of usually always waited till everything was completed before the information went out there, and then people would just kind of say, no, we're not buying this. And I think if you keep them in the process, you'll have better results at the end.
And could we put at least this presentation on the website?
Oh, absolutely.
I know you mentioned about, getting the full version out, but, I think just this piece in itself, I'd like to have a copy of that. I think it's very informative.
Especially if I don't give Howard back his
Right.
Yes, we will get that all on the website. It's been refined considerably since the last I saw it, so now you'll send me a copy of this one,
Yeah.
and we'll get that up there for sure.
And we have one member of the press here. Do we have anybody else in the press?
Yep, actually we do.
Sounds like a hot story to me.
I just want to make a quick
Just
comment.
identify yourself.
I'm sorry, my name is Jen Burrows, I'm on the EDC committee. I think everyone here should really know, first and foremost, John Bell, a member of our committee, has done diligent time with the website and making it more user-friendly. He has put a tremendous amount of time and effort, along with our group, make sure that that website can be utilized so things like this can go on it. And we are really fortunate as a town to have an amazing member of the community.
Now we can just drive people to the website.
Yes.
Anything else? Yes, ma'am. And you are?
Jen Dow, New York, I'm the percentage that was at the very beginning, is that a percentage of what you spoke to businesses, or is that the website basis?
That was the online survey, 20 to 23% of all households in the area responded to it.
Okay, and that's
So that means that a lot of people are actually going to the website.
Yeah, actually, yes, it meant that, well, between the publicity that we did, they actually went to the website and they did this. I mean, that's a remarkable high percentage.
And the results of that survey are on the website now. They have been for a couple of weeks.
John, identify yourselves just for the record.
Sorry?
We're just asking people to identify themselves.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, make sure in the back of your head.
I'm John Bell. I'm a member of the EDC. I just wanted to mention that the results of that survey have been on the website for a couple of weeks, so if you would like to spread the word to anybody who's interested, they can take a look at the results and see them.
Jack Reeds. I think another factor as well is that there was information sent out to every household in the community beforehand that the website was there. So I think that caused a lot of people for the first time to get on and complete the survey. And it may be necessary to your point that you really need to communicate in advance and get people thinking about what you're trying to accomplish.
Can I make one more comment to that? And also, Linda went on Facebook and reminded people almost in capital letters to go take the survey. So that was just another way of reminding people to get out there and do it. As a matter of fact, that's why I went on and did the survey, was because I saw it on Facebook.
And also Jen made whoopie pies and handed them out to every voter and said to go to the website and take the survey. So, that was good.
They are good.
Of the 300 movie pies she gave out, I think we got 80 people to sign up.
And
No
the
pie,
movie
no
pies
pie.
were delicious.
Anybody else? Appreciate it, Howard, for our next presentation.
This is the survey. Very good.
Howard, very good. Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, item B, which is
I guess I'm waiting.
request for the selection to, for the motion to consider previously approved funding of relative to the repair to engine 301. Is that right? You want us to reconsider a vote that we took to do what exactly?
The way that the repairs to 301 were funded, I was a little aggressive with the funding that I used from the fire department expenditure line, and that will overexpend the fire department for the fiscal year 12-13. So we'll need to take additional funding from the capital equipment for the fire department in order to cover the repairs that were done to engine 301.
So I'll need a motion to reconsider if anybody's inclined to do that.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion to reconsider the previous motion relative to the funding for the repairs to engine 301. Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay. Now that motion is back on the floor, as I understand it. And we either need to have it withdrawn or we need to take a vote on it and defeat it. What's your pleasure? I don't know who made the motion.
So I'll make a motion for it.
Okay.
Right over here, see, we had, the motion was made by Dan and seconded by Phil to authorize the balance. Okay, initially, it was like there were two motions. Was it two?
I thought we had made two motions on this, because one was for the fire department fund, and the other motion was to take it out of the
Yeah, it was $10,000 coming from the fire rescue account.
They were, I believe they were done together. 10,000 would come out of the fire rescue,
Right.
and then the 7,585.03 was to come out of capital reserves. And Tom made the motion, it's made by Dan and seconded by Phil to authorize the balance. Perhaps
It probably should have been two motions.
It probably should have been one
I
motion.
thought we had a discussion,
It was,
there
yeah,
was two
because
motions.
capital reserve had to be one motion,
Yeah,
and,
but I only have one motion on my minutes here, my paper.
well, it could have been to take that amount from capital reserve and the remainder from,
For the balance, they did put it on the balance.
so now you want to take,
Excuse me, I believe what happened was where the balance would be taken out of the rental fire rescue, there was no motion for that. The motion was only to take it out of the capital reserves for the 7,000.
Because the money would already be there.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So probably just need to
So
deal with the
Dan-
motion to put the 7,500 out of the capital reserve account, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Okay.
That needs to be $11,585.03 as of this morning. With the bills that continued to come in, the fire department would have been $3,200 overexpended in their operating line. And so in order to rectify that situation, rather than the $7,585.03 that was to come out of capital equipment, that needs to be $11,585.03. And we made the journal entry for the $6,000 from the fire department vehicle repairs line.
and there's enough in that capital.
There's 100, as of the end of fiscal year 12-13, there's $180,000 in the fire department capital reserve.
Okay. And I will make a motion that we take the 11,585.03 from the fire department.
We're first going to deal with,
Get rid of the other one.
Dan, you got to withdraw your motion.
Do I withdraw or can I amend my motion?
I don't see why you couldn't amend it. That would be fine.
Yeah. So I'd like to amend my motion to reflect the 11,585.03.
Phil, you seconded it last
I would second that.
Okay, motion made and seconded to amend the previous motion to increase the withdrawal from the Reliance, or from the capital reserve fund, or reserve account, from 7,585 to 11,585.03. Any further discussion? All in favor then?
I apologize for that.
So we just took care of the next item too, I think.
Yes, we did.
Okay, the next item is consideration approval of a special permit for catering privileges off premises for Saco Plaza LLC, DBA Express Events, an August 14th event at the Arundel Barn Playhouse, 57 on First Road.
I think we do this every
Yeah,
year.
every year, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
so
Make a
I,
motion,
Almost every year.
I make a motion that we approve
I'll
this
second,
event.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion with respect to the motion?
Can you elaborate a little? What is it?
What it is it's an off-premise catering license. So the Arundel Barn Playhouse doesn't have a liquor license. They bring in a caterer from outside, and they need to have, the caterer needs to get their license approved at that location for the one event.
And the caterer's got the liquor license.
I saw that.
Yeah,
That's what it
yeah.
So they're holding a hosted event.
Any further questions, discussion? All in favor then?
You want us to print it also?
Okay.
No, because I didn't work very much.
Okay, well, let's go on around. I think everybody already knows because of the variety of signs that are out there. The new road is going to be closed tomorrow
Fancy
through
signs.
Thursday, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m.
8 a.m.
No.
8 a.m. to 4 p.m.
a.m. to 4 a.m.
Oh, I thought it said mine did.
No,
No,
it's
7/9 through 7/11, 8 a.m. until 4 p.m. And Roger told me those, I believe those signs came from Kennebunk. I talked to him this afternoon. He said those signs are working so well that people are turning around and going the other way already, and the road's not even closed yet. But they only see road closed, and they don't wait to see the rest of it.
But are they gonna I mean, they got a lot of local.
Local traffic, you just won't be able to get, there's 2 cross culverts that have to be changed, so depending on what day is which end you'll have to access it to get to your house. I believe one of them is right at Liberty Acres,
Yeah.
and then the other one's further up by the Flame. And there will be detour signs being placed tomorrow morning. I got a call from Jeff at Dutch Elm Golf Course asking us to do that, because most of the people who use the golf course access it come up to it.
Discussion with respect to that. Next item is to inform the selectmen that there'll be a hearing on the 80B complaint filed by the DuBois on 7/16 at 8:30 a.m. with York County. I would guess that's Superior Court.
Yeah,
but,
yes, that is. And Jason, if you would like to come by my office sometime when you get a chance, I can bring you up to speed on what that's all about.
Reviewed, I need to approve the AP and payroll warrants.
Where warrants?
What's that?
Oh, they're right here.
Okay.
So moved?
Second,
Second?
all in favor?
Unless Tom sees something exciting in there.
I haven't in a lot of years. We'd like to find something exciting against Velma. Okay, we have any old business? Anybody? Old business? Go from old business to other business. No other.
No difference between old and other.
I don't know.
There's new, there's old, and then there's other.
Have you heard anything from Marilyn?
I
You
haven't.
sent out an email.
You
to
saw
her.
the email I sent her, I haven't heard anything back from her yet, Dan. I don't know what, you and I will probably have to go over and pay her a visit, I think.
Well, you know, we're talking about, the planning board is pushing to have something on November, and I don't want to miss that opportunity, so.
Absolutely not. I don't know how else to convince her.
What's the planning board on?
Well, they're actually shooting, I'm not sure if they'll get it done, but they're actually shooting to get a bunch of, if the ordinance.
The ordinance done, yeah.
Yeah.
That's,
Sure.
I believe that's working on the 5th district too.
Okay, there are no old or other business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
There's nobody wants
Gonna
to
stay here? Okay. All in favor?
Phil did.
Yeah.